It's been a really long time since I did a book review video. I've been wanting to make a video. I have a stack of books on my desk right now. Lots of Patrick Lencioni, Seth Godin, Simon Sinek. I know you guys were like, wait, a lot of those are non-Christian books. Well, my book reviews were never gonna be just about Christian books. And the real exciting thing about this is there's a lot in those books that are very helpful for Christian leaders and pastors. So a lot's been delayed because schedule has changed. I don't know if you heard, there's this thing called COVID-19 going around. So it's been really difficult to make these videos. So sorry to those who are looking for another review. I know I only got one book review out. It's been like 8 months. So obviously I don't have my normal setup like I did in my last video. We actually rearranged some things in our apartment because we got one of our kids doing in-home school learning. We need to create some space. So this is not like the last video. It's not gonna be the same with all the angles and the production and all that stuff. But I don't wanna delay anymore and get excited about other books. I wanna talk about the book that I'm going to review today. Before You Vote by David Platt. It's my iPad. I bought it on the Kindle. It was cheaper on the Kindle. Before You Vote, 7 Questions Every Christian Should Ask by David Platt, New York Times bestselling author of Radical. This video is not gonna be that long. We're gonna review this very quickly, but I know what you're all thinking and asking right now. Why are you doing a book review about voting when the election is tomorrow and many of you probably have already voted with mail-in ballots? Well, stick around to the end of the video because I will answer that question. Please stick around and watch the whole video because I will explain why this book is still important even though you already voted. Now, let me save you some time. If you're watching this hoping to hear who I voted for or hoping to hear me tell you who to vote for, or maybe you're thinking, oh, who is David Platt going to vote for? What is this book gonna say about which candidate is the best candidate to vote for? This video is not gonna talk about any of that stuff. You might as well just skip this video and watch something else because I'm not gonna talk about who I voted for. I'm not gonna tell you who to vote for, and the book doesn't address that either. So you're thinking, why do I have to read this book? What is this book really about? Well, let me read you the 7 questions. The 7 questions are the 7 chapters of this book. Question number 1, does God call me to vote? Question number 2, who has my heart? Question number 3, what does my neighbor need? What is the Christian position? How do I weigh the issues? Am I eager to maintain unity in the church? So, how do I vote? Chapter 7 doesn't tell you who to vote for. It doesn't tell you who David Platt is going to vote for. So don't ask me in the comments below, and don't buy this book if you're gonna look for just the answer to that question. We are in a very, very tense time in our country and a very tense time in our church. I don't actually ever remember, I'm not that old, but I don't ever remember this many people caring and being so into the presidential election. Now, this book is not exhaustive. This is a very easy book to read. You could read it in one day easily. And I'm not saying that everything that David Platt says or writes about is correct, but what he tries to do is lay out a basic framework. And I really do mean that. This is a basic framework. So if you're looking for a book that's gonna explain in-depth theology as it deals with politics or as it deals with this presidential election, this book is not gonna go really that deep. It is gonna provide some really good thought-provoking ideas, and it's gonna provide, like I said, a pretty good framework on where to begin, how to approach politics, especially with a Christian worldview. I'm gonna read some quotes from some of the chapters here, and I'll put a screenshot up so you guys can see it. This comes from chapter 3. It says, at the same time, we follow a king who commands us to lay down our rights and use the grace he has given to love our neighbors as ourselves. Like I said, what Platt is doing here in a lot of these chapters is he's really reminding you and I, the Christian, if you are a Christian, some very, very important biblical theological truths that we cannot forget, that we need to remember, but all of these things must be involved in our thought process on who we're going to vote for, how we're going to analyze and evaluate legislation and policy and things like that. Platt even talks about what is a Christian? Remember what a Christian is? Again, basic framework, but the reason why this is important is because he's trying to lay out important theological truths that are necessary to be thinking about and not to forget, and to marinate all of these things in your political opinion, political party, how you're going to vote, and evaluation of all of this legislation. Chapter 4 is a really good chapter because chapter 4 is going to talk about what are issues and legislation that actually the Bible can't speak into, but what are not points of legislation that the Bible is very silent about. You can't find verses in the Bible that talks about some of these legislative points and policies that the presidents are talking about or they're trying to push. So that's actually probably my favorite chapter in this whole book, and it might be the chapter that you're really into. In chapter 4, it does talk about something extremely important. And I'm going to read this for you. It says, "As we have seen, there is a place for such statements. We have listed biblical examples including abortion, marriage, murder, paying taxes, and caring for the poor and the immigrant. But as soon as someone uses language about the Christian position and does not have clear, direct language from God's word supporting that position, he or she has gone beyond the bounds of the Bible and is unbiblically dividing the church. Claiming to know the Christian position draws a line in the sand. There are those who are in and those who are out. But decisions of who's in and who's out are God's alone to make. So be careful not to make that stand and make that statement unless you can back it up with clear, direct words from God himself. Otherwise, be warned, you might be causing division in the church in a way that is contrary to God's word." This is such a valuable point that he's making, and it's important for you and I, the Christian, because we are arguing about a lot of things that we claim to be biblical or claim to be in the Bible. But what Platt is trying to say is some of this stuff is not in the Bible. So we got to be very, very careful. We're trying to push for kind of like this biblical honor or Christian honor. Some of the things that we're very passionate about or some of the things that we believe in or some of the legislations that we're pushing for is not in the Bible. So we got to be very, very careful to push certain legislation and policies as if we are supporting it with the Bible, but the Bible doesn't talk about it. So really good chapter there, chapter 4. I think you'll like it because again, it does talk about some of the major policies and legislation that the Bible it does talk about. I mean, I read the quote, murder, paying taxes, all that stuff, right? And then it'll talk about some things that the Bible actually doesn't talk about. And he provides some thoughts on how to evaluate that and reflect upon that. Hey, real quick, if you're liking the review so far, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. That really does help out. And I hope that you guys can tune in for future book reviews and other fun stuff on my channel. All right, let's get back to this review. Chapter 7 is a good chapter to read. Like I said, chapter 7 is not going to talk about who Platt's going to vote for, and it's not going to tell you who you should vote for. Chapter 7 is going to give you kind of a summary, but it's going to give you a good practical way on how to organize all of your ideas and beliefs and thoughts as it deals with politics and the president. And then it's going to help you to see, all right, based upon the practical points that chapter 7 is talking about, this is kind of who you might align with, or this is where you're leaning towards. So chapter 7, How Do I Vote, is going to be talking about and actually showing you a grid. He actually calls it the grid, and it's basically a helpful way on how you can kind of pinpoint your beliefs and your legislative beliefs and policies so that you can know, hey, okay, this is kind of where I'm leaning. But remember, you got to marinate all of the grid with the Bible, your love for one another with grace, with mercy. In chapter 7, after he explains to you kind of, again, this is just a practical way. I'm not saying, and Platt is not saying that this is exactly the way you need to kind of pinpoint your thoughts and beliefs. Again, he's just giving you a helpful way, a helpful idea. And now we come to the end of the video. I told you in the beginning, for those of you who already voted, you already sent in your mail-in ballot, you might be thinking, why should I watch this, or why should I even read this book? Why should I care? I already voted. Well, let me answer that for you. This book here is called Before You Vote, but after reading it, to be honest, it should be called Before or After You Vote. There should be like a subtitle, Before Your Vote, Even After Your Vote. I don't know if David Platt's ever gonna watch this. I'm not trying to critique you or say you messed up, but I do believe this book here is important before or after you vote. I think you should read this because what Platt is talking about here is going to be very helpful for all the people who voted and the person you voted for doesn't win. Or it's going to be helpful for those of you who voted and the person you voted for did win, because this is going to help the church understand the Christian and biblical framework and the necessary theological and biblical truths that must stand firm, that must be marinating all of our political views and beliefs so that we do not divide the church. So I have a rating system. If you guys don't know my rating system, I'm gonna put it here or here. It's gonna appear somewhere here. Click on that video, it's gonna explain my rating system, but I rate all of my books according to these two categories. Who is this book for? This book is for any member, any pastor. You should read it. It doesn't matter if you're a member or a pastor, you should read it. The scholar probably doesn't want to read it because this book is a very light book. It's not going to go crazy in depth with research and doing all this kind of data comparisons and evaluation. So the scholar probably is not going to want to read this, especially if you're a scholar researching something that deals with Bible and politics. However, I think this is for anyone to read, whether you're a member or the pastor. And even if you're a pastor, I think you should read it because this is going to help out, reminding you of some things. Now, is this book practical or theological? This book is mostly practical. Like I said, this is going to talk about how to organize your thoughts and how to think through things from a biblical Christian worldview as it relates to politics. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not theological. Platt does include answers to his why, and he's going to talk about why he believes in certain things, and the theological support and biblical support is there. However, you're looking for like deep theological answers to politics and stuff like that, this book is not going to go in depth into there. So I would call this kind of like a 70%, 75% practical, and then like 20-25% theological. So I recommend that you read this book. I recommend that you get it. Read the book. I think it will help, even if you already voted. So that's it, y'all. This is a short review. Things are getting crazy this week. I hope that we can still be unified and fight for that unity. I know you're mad, or you know someone who's really mad and angry. Let me know what books you want me to read. Write it in the comments down below, and if it's within my sphere, then I would love to read about it. When I say sphere, if you recommend books, I don't know, like how to play badminton or something like that, I'm not interested in that, so I don't want to read that. But write some recommendations, and I would love to check it out. Hey there, thanks for watching this book review. Thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. If you want to see another book review I did a while back, click on this video. Or if you want to watch some other cool videos, I got some other variety stuff on my channel here. Please subscribe, turn on those notifications, and I hope that you guys stay safe during these times. And let's be at peace. Let's love one another.